Green Bay hustle, grind it up. Hit the field, we don't bluff. Touchdown dances, feel the love. Jordan's got that MVP stuff. It's time for the up. Let's go. Packers bringing that show. It's time for you know who. Wanna go, gonna glow. For all you know, green and gold gonna glow.
Here we are for my first crack at the live show that's not the day 2 draft show on Ohana Packers Edition. And that introductory pause is me trying to not say all of the very insensitive, mean,
Nasty things
expletive
going through our
deletives that,
heads.
my God, Iowa Joe, Matt LaFleur just put on a fucking clinic of how to lose a football game in 42 ways. Like,
Actually, I'll kind of disagree with you on that one. He didn't show how to lose a game. He showed how to tie a game, because that's what he played for the whole game. Was we just want to go for the tie. That's it.
Like, okay, that's Iowa Joe. I'm Mike. We're here covering the Packers as they, I don't even know what label to put on it, stumbled ass backwards into a tie, which I know some people will say, like, well, it's not a loss. It's a fucking loss when you play in this division. Detroit has their ego and swagger back. They're walking with their dick in their hands, and your coach is worried about getting some backsplash on himself at the urinal. Like, we'll get into it further when we get to our different segments, but I want to just put the disclaimer out, and we'll put it out in multiple times in this episode, that you're looking at two of the most patient people when it comes to defending LaFleur, liking the culture he's established and all that. But today's game, this was a head-to-toe example of your team is what you preach and what you establish as your identity. And LaFleur's identity has been be good enough. And it's bit him in the ass every playoffs because he's tried to be just good enough and his team hasn't been good enough. And you fuck around and find out 2 weeks in a row. All honesty, they've done it every week of this season, and I have defended it every week leading up to this one, that, okay, you're playing with a tilted hand, you have injuries on your O-line, blah, blah, blah. You're in control of all of these games, and you refuse to do what is necessary to put bad teams in the ground. And it has progressively blown up in his face worse every week, to the point where he is dog shit lucky that Dallas is so bad on defense that he could salvage the tie. Like, Detroit was so ass backwards in week 1, they couldn't recover. Washington sort of started to figure it out into the fourth quarter. And then you put the hammer down and score the touchdown. And I gave him credit for doing that. And then in Cleveland, you just pulled the pin out of the grenade, let the paddle go, and held it in your hand going, I wonder what's going to happen. And then you come back this week and you do the same damn thing. You continue to employ a special teams coordinator who does nothing but cash checks. You know, everyone, when they're hired for a new job, gets the, where do you see yourself in 5 years? Or do you view this as more than cashing a paycheck? Goddamn, Rich Bisaccia doesn't view this job as anything more than cashing a very expensive paycheck.
I'm loving this, because usually I'm the one blowing up on shit, and Mike's the calm, cool head. And this is amazing.
And
keep going.
Like, this thing is going to be heavy in the, and forget stale. Like, I don't even know what I would put in stale tonight. There's going to be a very short, very, very, very due gold star section tonight, because there are a few players who deserve to have their efforts recognized for what they did in tonight's game. And then it's all going to be a rail session. And LaFleur, buddy, you're going to fucking wear it this week, because your team is a goddamn embarrassment right now. And everyone's going to say, like, oh, you're so spoiled, you're so this, that, the team is 2-1-1. This team should be 4-0. And it's not, because your coach is a goddamn coward. Joe? where are you at coming into this episode?
Well, I think we just go ahead and jump into things because I was thoroughly enjoying that because, like I said, if nobody's heard the show before, nobody's seen it or anything like that, I'm usually the one ranting and raving on shit. Mike's the one with the calmer head trying to explain things. But this has been amazing watching Mike blow up on things. So I think we just go ahead and jump into our things.
Fresh cheese.
So I am going to give one to obviously Josh Jacobs just because he's been playing the best he can play with what he's been given. And whether it's, fighting through the offensive line's injuries, shit play calling, whatever it is, and he's injured, he's been dealing with an ankle injury. So I got to give to him because he has been the bright spots. So yeah, he's definitely a fresh this week.
Yeah. And then the other guy, yeah. I mean, I do think, I've been critical on Jacobs. I've said he's missed some cuts. He's, had not the greatest vision going into games this season, but I mean, I don't blame him not trusting that lanes will be there when every time you go to get the handoff, there's someone in your face immediately. And, the definition of making something out of nothing. And yeah.
Pretty much because he went 22 for 86 yards with 3.9 average with 2 touchdowns. So he was pretty much making the best out of nothing.
Yep. And on the other side of it, the absolute shame of this botched game is that Jordan Love played his heart out there tonight with a head coach who was afraid to win the game, a defense that couldn't stop anything, a special teams coordinator asleep at the wheel, and an O-line that if it's not blocking people, it's getting called for penalties. And, there was a lot of people putting out the, here comes the backbreaking Jordan Love interception. Yes, the fumble before half isn't great, but he shouldn't have been put in that position. That's a F- coaching moment there. But otherwise, outside of that fumble, Jordan played a near flawless game to the point where he almost bailed LaFleur out at the very end. And I don't know, they're going to have to figure out a way to get throws to Golden in the end zone because that's another one where it's like, if it's another inch or another foot one way or another, maybe it's caught around Sanborn kind of thing. But Jordan was awesome tonight.
The only thing I got to take away from Jordan, I mean, he did a better job of throwing away the ball when he needed to and stuff like that. But there at the end with the whole hurry up offense type deal for when the clock was ticking, I understand that he wanted to have that one last shot at it, but there was no urgency there. And they almost blew it just with the time on the clock. So, and you can't all blame him, but he's the leader of the offense. He's got to be able to get these guys moving, and there was just no urgency there for them. So that would be the only thing that I got to say drawback wise with him is being the leader of the offense. He needs to get those guys in a hurry a little bit more.
Yeah, and that is one where I put that on.
That's
coach.
the only drawback.
Yeah,
that was
and I
the
put
only
that
thing
on his
he did
coaches.
wrong this
Like,
year.
I think LaFleur has Love so reined in that that Love isn't just going to go up there and wing it and just say like, I'm throwing 3 straight into the end zone. And God, this is I'm so pissed because we should be celebrating Jordan and Romeo, who is going to be my other obvious gold star, with just the two of them making play after play after play with the game on the line. And it's just a damn shame. It's a damn shame that we're going to be here just pissed off at the outcome, pissed off at certain people who are tied to this organization, when we really should be celebrating an awesome night for Jordan. And like you said, there's some things on the margin you'd like to see him clean up. The strip sack is not good. Like I said, as much as I don't think that's fully on him, it is the whole, like LaFleur said on Monday, okay, it's a bad call, but you can't make it worse by what you do on the field kind of thing. Way to throw your quarterback under the fucking bus, LaFleur. Otherwise, there was no point where he put the ball in the air and I was concerned tonight. He just looked very much in control, and he should have had a like. They did not give us a good enough reason to take his fourth touchdown off the board, the one to Kraft. Like that should have been his, and but and then for like I said,
that
for
one I
Doug,
was a little bit confused by because the ball he hit the pylon with ball in hand, and normally that's a touchdown no matter what. So I don't know.
and it's one of those where if you're gonna turn that over, you've got to give a better explanation than like you've got to go and give us the dissertation that when his elbow touches, there is a view where the ball is short of the like it's not touching the pile. You've got to give us that because I absolutely hate the NFL when they just do the review and then they're like, "Oh, play is overturned," and it's like, what was indisputable? And I know that we're messing up the segments here, but like I said, this game is a there's gonna like I said, there's gonna be a lot of people who try to do the well, it's not a loss, it's a fucking loss. Going down any sort of game, half game in this division, it's gonna cost you come the end of the season. And this one is an NFC not win. Like you can people are gonna try to say you didn't lose an NFC game yet. It's not a win. And that's gonna count against you at the end when you're putting the tally together. Philly is still undefeated. Detroit is ahead of you by half a game now in the standings.
And he also gave the Bears ammunition because now they're going to come out and say, "Ha ha ha! We trounced the Cowboys and whatever." But let's finish out our goods. You mentioned Romeo. I'm going to throw the rest of the receivers in there too because they were all playing well. They were all helping Jordan out. Without Golden making that catch on the fourth down, there'd been no chance at a tie anyway. Savion looked good in his limited catches. Malik Heath is another one that without his catch and exit to out of bounds, it wouldn't have stopped the clock. There still would have been issues there. So you got to give Tucker a little bit of credit with his stuff. Musgraves is getting comical to the point. I know me and you were kind of joking on socials about it, but I don't care what anybody says. If the ball hits Musgraves in the hand, he's on the ground no matter what. Whether the ball's leading him to the ground or what, he always ends up on the ground. I don't know if he needs to hit leg days more often or what, but something's got to happen.
He needs to do some Pilates. But he caught it.
He did. And Wicks was, can't really blame him for anything either. He had his catches,
like
but there was
the only negative you could say is he probably still could have and maybe honestly should have caught the one they didn't call DPI on at the end of overtime. He had an opportunity there, and I would have liked. I know it's asking a lot. That would have been an A+ play because he's getting pulled down, catching the ball from his ass and stuff. But it would have been one of those like to cement the progress he's made this season, like that kind of like big moment for him. But then he comes back later on the drive, catches that in cut slant over the middle, breaks it for a first down, gets us down to the Dallas 25. And he is just stacking really good plays together this season. And like I said, this is just what makes me so much more angry for our moldy segment because there's so many things in this. There's so much that went wrong, but there's so many guys who punched above their weight to try and make it not matter. And I will give Parsons one for stopping Dak short on that play down by the goal line. I know that it was kind of a quiet game for him, didn't have the impact that I'm sure he wanted tonight.
Well, that'll be something that we're going to talk about a little bit in the moldy too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was nice to see him make a play when like someone had to make one. And obviously a turnover would have been special and all that kind of stuff, but it was cool to see him get something on the board there. So unless anything has escaped my mind.
Yeah, there's one more that neither one of us mentioned, and that's Emmanuel Wilson.
Oh, yes.
He had a hell of a game. My God, I said it on socials that when he's got the ball in his hand, he's got such command on things. He's got great vision. He's a thumper with speed, and good thing that he was playing the way he did, because with Jacobs having to go out because of his injuries, I think Wes Hodquist said that he ended up going out with a cut on his knee or something like that they were fixing up. So without Wilson, who knows what that run game would have been looking like until Jacobs got back in there. So yeah, I got to give him his props.
No,
He's
absolutely.
fresh this week.
I'm still getting thrown off because he's wearing a new number this season. It's
I
still
did
throwing
too.
me.
When I first saw it, I was like, when did Abby Conda come back?
Yeah.
Or Manny Conda? I was like, who
Did
the
we
hell
elevate
is
him?
23? So, all right. Is there any others that you can think of off the top of your head? Maybe Quay. I think you can throw Quay in there.
Yeah, I'll throw Quay in there. Yeah, I think that's it, honestly.
Well, let's jump to this
What's
one.
this stale shit?
Is there anything that you can think of? Maybe Edge. Edge really
Yeah,
wasn't.
I'll put Edge in the stale. I don't want to burn him. Like, at least I'll put him in stale because he's at least making his mistakes at 100 miles per hour. Like, he was always going to be a guy where he's going to have some erratic games because he plays with his hair on fire and all those adages. But this is one where he could have had like a handful at least of impactful plays. Overtime drive, he knifes into the backfield and he just whiffs on Javonte Williams. And that was like an encapsulation of his whole game, was just like, it's unfortunate, but also I don't want to bury him because he is in his 20th game if you count the playoff game. Not even because he didn't play the first third of last season. He's in the 4th game of his 2nd season. There was always going to be a learning curve, growing pains with him.
Yeah, I mean, it's not enough to put him moldy because, yeah, like you said, he's still young enough and still growing in his own, but there were some mental mistakes that needed to be cleaned up a bit, and he just wasn't as sharp as he has been the last couple of weeks.
Yeah. And it's one of those where he's still hitting enough home runs to make up for some strikeouts. And it's just cluster luck that they all came in one game. He had the fucking golden sombrero tonight. So, when you have high leverage boomer bust players, like guys who kind of bring that style of play, you're going to have some nights like that. You need other people to make it up. And it's an absolute bummer because it was working so good the first few drives. And then it just fell off a cliff for that side of the ball when this game went 13-2. So, other than that, I guess another one was I'll put Morgan in the stale because I do think he fought his way back after some bad penalties early. I thought Collins were trying to highlight him at a couple points, and I do think he was doing some decent things on the interior there. I still don't like him playing inside. I think he gets manhandled a little bit, but I thought that he recollected himself as the game went along and did okay in there. So, nothing to celebrate, but, I'll put it in the stale because it wasn't terrible kind of thing. I know that's not really how we usually use the stale, but I can't put it in fresh. Like, it wasn't good enough to go there.
And I've got a couple other ones that are a little bit interesting wise. So my first one is going to be the pass rush. While they're not fully bad enough to go into our moldy segment, they aren't good enough. They haven't lived up to the hype of the last few weeks, but they were still getting pressure. They were still getting what they needed to. They just they weren't finishing. I mean, there were times that I was seeing Van Ness like pancake the guy in front of him, and this will be a little bit going into the moldy is then he gets held and he can't do it. He can't finish it. Or Parsons, same way. He knocks the guys out of his way, but he gets held and he can't finish Rashawn was just off this whole night. It seemed like he reverted back to last year, Rashawn, where the bull rush was working, but he didn't want to use the bull rush. He just wanted to keep using his speed moves, and it just wasn't helping at all. And I mean, so yeah, the pass rush itself is, I would say, would go into the stale just because there was no. They were doing what they needed to, but there was no finish to it. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I agree. Like you said, you can't put him in the positive because you got some pressures. The only sack was Micah's one in overtime, which was a big one. What you
And it
saw
was lucky
tonight,
that they called it a sack.
yeah. What you saw tonight is how a good game plan can negate their pass rush, unless Halfley is gonna be willing to be a little.
Uh-oh, folks, this is where we have a hard time because I lose Mike once in a while. So hang out. He'll be back in a minute.
They're quite fast
promise.
enough due to the plays. Oh,
Okay, now you're back. Start over.
yeah. No, I agree with you that it belongs in stale. Like they were getting some pressure, but what you saw tonight is like how a good game plan can negate what Green Bay wants to do on defense. And part of what's feeding into that is a lot of what we're going to go into in the in, there's some things that Halfley can clean up, but also I know that he basically got to a point where he's like, I just need to stop the bleeding tonight, like, and he couldn't. And sometimes, and I think what has to be recognized is Dak is having an amazing season, and we did call that out on our preview show. Like I said, he's got a couple interceptions on his ledger where one of them should have never happened because the NFL, in all its wisdom, decided to not review the turnover, and then the second one went off Pickens' hands. And Dak just made some stupid, ridiculous plays, and the defense fed into a handful of them. But like you said, you want to see a little more consistent impact, but also it was frustrating. But the pass rush not having its impact was as much of a those guys get paid to play to tonight kind of thing. Whereas a lot of other parts of this defense was just really, really rough. And it was just, yeah. Well, I think that's all I've got for stale. How about you?
That's about all I got to. Just throwing this out here. Our friend Brian Rago saying, I am on my way to Bisaccia's house to put a for sale sign in his yard. I don't think that's going to help. They always say that, was it a lost dog knows its way home? And you can put the house for sale, but he's still going to find his way back in no matter what. But stale wise, yeah, I think that's about all I got. I mean, something will probably pop up eventually, but I think that's all I got. So we'll just move on.
It's a moldy cheese. It's a moldy cheese.
We'll start out with the Bisaccia of all of this because that's where the game started to go off the rails. So the Packers go up 13-0. They're in complete control of the game. And literally all you're doing, all LaFleur, and we'll get into this later, all LaFleur wants at that point is to not give Dallas any momentum. And what does Bisaccia's fucking part of the ball do, or part of the team do, is goes out and gives Dallas any reason to believe by letting a PAT get blocked and returned for a 2-point conversion. And mind you, that is the difference between McManus kicking to win the game at the end of regulation versus trying to send it to overtime. Yes, Musgrave screwed up. Yes, Brant Banks is out there not really sure what he's supposed to do, all that kind of crap. But you had all week to prepare for this, and you fucking blew it, Bisaccia. Like, you had literally all week to work on this crap, and your unit, it took 2 instances for your unit to go out there and piss down its leg. And I have so many things to go into that, but like, the first one is, okay, we know Musgrave isn't the best blocker. You have 2 tight ends who are active on game days, whose literal first meaning for being on this roster is to be blocking specialists so Tucker Kraft can go and catch the fucking ball downfield. I have zero understanding why Ben Sims or John Fitzpatrick are not the wing players on the PAT team. Like, I know some people are gonna be like, oh, but when no, like, why are you putting a guy who's not a good blocker on offense on special teams? So that's one. Number two, you go and the universe, the way it sets up the Packers coaches to just give future premonitions of how the Packers special teams are gonna fuck up when the lights are on them. The way that Bisaccia so boldly in his presser goes, he's figuring it out, but we're confident in where it's going of Matthew Golden returning punts. Matthew Golden tries a spin cycle in the middle of the fucking maelstrom and almost gets decapitated on the return.
I was ready to throw hands.
Like, no, rookie, you cannot do spin. This ain't the end. This ain't high school. That shit ain't gonna work out here. But also, Golden hasn't fielded punts clean all season. Like, he's got two, I think, where he's caught the ball on the fly clean. Ironically, the spin move was one of them. You know there's no Christian Watson. Jaden Reed is on IR, has gone on IR, and you continue to put a guy who you're trying to expand his role on offense out there in a position he's clearly not comfortable with. And this is going to get into a lot of the LaFleur of it all. And Bisaccia is saying a lot of the same bullshit he did with Amari Rodgers in 2021 or in 2022, where it's like, well, you know, they're figuring stuff out. We've got to figure it out, blah, blah, blah. My God in heaven. Like, what the hell are we doing there? And then, like a ticking clock, Green Bay takes the lead to go back up for, and what happens? Bisaccia's kick coverage team goes and gives up a freaking 40-something yard return. Like, it's just, like I said, his unit is so bad, I don't think we even get the twice right, the 2 times right a day thing out of him. And like I said, to open it, I have no idea what he's doing other than cashing checks. Like,
And there's even more than what you were talking about. I mean, his unit cost yardage with 2 good returns by the Cowboys. Turpin took one to the 50-yard line on a return, and luckily they were able to wrangle him at that point. And then the other one was overtime. And then what the hell was going on? Does he not know how to teach his guys how to not take it in the end zone when these little pooch kicks are happening? I mean, everybody knows what the rule is, that if it hits in the what they call it, the kick zone, and then you down it in the end zone, it only comes out to the 20. You don't get the 35-yard line. So is he not teaching his guys this? Does he not even know how that fucking works? Because they were doing it the whole rest of the game because they knew the Packers were going to pull that shit. So, I mean, I agree. I've been kind of a Bisaccia apologist there for a bit because, you know, the people that he was having on special teams wasn't this. But now I'm kind of to the point where, like you are with LaFleur, that there's no defending it. This the same shit week in, week out. There's no rhythm to it. There's no rhyme or reason to it. He continues our units out there. He's the assistant head coach. He sure isn't doing. He's about the same he's as much an assistant head coach as Dwight Schrute was assistant to the regional manager of Dunder Mifflin. It's in like name only, because even then, why isn't he pushing LaFleur to do certain things? Because this goes back to what I keep saying. It's as if LaFleur thinks you can only score so many points in a season. So that's what he's going to play for, to limit how many points he's going to score in a game. And, you know, that's the thought process. What good is it having an assistant head coach if he's not going to help you be a head coach? That's the whole point of an assistant manager or assistant, whatever you want to call it, is to render help to the manager when the manager needs it, or the coach needs it, or whatever you want to call it. So if he's not even doing that job, then there's no need to keep him around anymore.
Yep.
I
I
suppose
have.
it's my turn to throw a moldy one up there.
Yeah, go for it.
So I guess the obvious one is kind of the same thing that we said during the Browns week, and the same thing that we said during the the Lions week. That, and this was the same crew as the Lions week too, wasn't it?
Possibly.
This officiating team sucked, and the officiating has sucked. And I think it was Kurt Benkert said it on Twitter. As much as I don't like agreeing with him because of some of the shit that he's put out there, if you're not going to call constant false starts or guys in the neutral zone or whatever on the Eagles when it comes to the tush push, how are you going to call a false start on the center when he's just positioning the ball to hike it? And then, like I said earlier, with the stale when it came to the pass rush, the reason a lot of times that they weren't able to finish the play, they were being held. I watched Lucas get held numerous times. And one of them was egregious because one of the things they tell you is an automatic hold call is when they hook their arm around the neck. And he was being hooked around the neck. That's an obvious hold call. Or the Matthew Golden punt return. That was a helmet to helmet hit. That was about as vicious a hit as the Devontae one years ago when Danny Trevathan tried to take his head off. Now, luckily, nothing seemed to happen with Golden. Golden continued to be able to play in the game. So, knock on wood, he didn't suffer any kind of effects or anything, and there would be no issues. And luckily, this next week will be the bye week. But when they showed the replay, they only showed it one time. And Tirico and Collingsworth only made one comment on it about him doing the spin move, or that'll teach him never to do spin move on that way. You're not in college anymore, Rook, or whatever the hell they said. Because when they did the replay, you saw the helmet to helmet. And there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. That should have been an emphasis. Or the DPI call against Wick, or for Wicks, on Wicks. That should have been called. Or there was another one that, was it on Romeo? There was a possible DPI and nobody called it. And even Collingsworth just kind of said, well, that might have been DPI. And then they never talked about it again. And it's like, even the commentators are knowing when it's a shit no call, because they immediately shut up about it. So yeah, the officiating this week, and again, they were calling things on both sides because I think Dallas was more penalized than the Packers this week. But it's just that kind of thing that has been week in and week out, that then they wonder why people are calling for automated calls or robot, like in Major League Baseball, the robot umpires and shit like that. Because I understand there's a human element to it, but if you can't make the call, what good are you? And on top of that, why does it take you 2 minutes to have a conference just to make a simple call?
Yep. Like I said, there's so many things wrong with this game. My whole thing with it is like, it's not even what they call, but it's just the absolute inconsistency of the calls. My whole being pissed off about the Elton moving the ball thing is Terry McCulley comes on and is like, they were told that they were going to call it if he puts the ball across the goal line. And then the producer cues up a replay of Elton Jenkins. Yes, he moves the ball, but there are 3 inches at least between the ball and the goal line. And McCulley veers to the left sharply and goes, well, he still moved it, so it's a penalty. And it's like, Terry, You fucking senile old git. Like, you are so adamant that what he's getting called for is moving the ball across the goal line. And then you go into backing up your boys mode because, I'm wrong. No, I'm not going to say that it's a bad call.
Well, that's what when they would see these things on replay, then they would immediately shut up or reverse course or and not say anything any further. It's like, if these guys can see it, why can't the guys on the field see it?
And then, like, even to have the ones where, like, Luke Schoonmaker false starts and it takes JJ Enigbar standing up like this. Like, and the flag comes out almost before Dallas snaps the ball. And it's like, you obviously weren't going to call. What absolutely astounds me is that they moved the umpire in the backfield to help the head referee with pocket calls, and neither of those guys are able to call the game back there consistently. You had the one where Jordan clearly gets face mask. Ronald Torbor is standing 4 feet away from Jordan Love and apparently doesn't have the angle to see that he got face masked on that play. You have,
Well, even speaking about Schoonmaker, how is what he did on one of the returns not unnecessary roughness? Because he tackled the guy out of bounds. I understand you have that whole moment or movement or momentum. I mean, sorry, I'm mixing up my words too. Momentum. But you could see where after they crossed the white line, he continued to yank down. And I can't think of who the guy was. It Golden or was it Romeo at that point? He hit the guy, they went out of bounds, and then he continued to drag him down.
yeah.
And you
Yeah,
had
I
two
forget
refs
who's.
standing right there.
It's just a and that's the thing is, like, you kind of edged on it earlier, where the thing that all of these sports leagues don't want to admit is that they want all these games in high definition so that everyone, in football it's count the blades of grass, but they don't want to admit that their human element isn't a problem when so much of it is. And I forget which game they were in, but they were talking about, like, you have these refereeing seminars, and good penalty discussion is when 60% of the room is in agreement. And I'm like, so no one knows what the fuck the rule is. Like, that's not a good thing. You've written your rulebook so fucking vague that almost half the room doesn't know what the fuck they're calling. And even the ones who are like, that's it, I don't think can give you a definitive, that's it. A chunk of them can give a, that's it because of this rule with this bylaw, this subset, blah, 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 blah. The other half are doing the, like, it looks like it fits the criteria. And the problem with
I'm going to stop you
is
there for a minute because we have to fully admit that a lot of the rules are based on judgment calls anyway. What somebody may see in one game may not be the same thing they see in another game, but they still have to call it by that rule because it's within that parameter. So you have to give them a little bit of credit on that, but when there's giant gaps between the parameters, then that's when it becomes questionable.
yeah. So it's just infuriating. The secondary. Oh my god.
Right, and I don't understand what the hell was going on out there. I hate keep using this fucking comparison, but it's like I'm watching the Iowa fucking Hawkeyes play in Green Bay Packer uniforms because it's soft zone. It's, let's play 10 yards off our receiver and hope that we can make the tackle when they catch the ball.
Yep. And they couldn't do that tonight. And it's a little bit of everything. Bad positioning, bad angles, bad effort. The freaking catch in overtime happens because Nixon just gives up on a play.
Carrington gave up on one of them, or a couple of them, same situation.
And then tried to make up with hustle on the back end of it, kind of thing and stuff. And this defense looked so connected and so like together for the first 11 quarters of the season, and then it got put in bad positions at the end of the Cleveland game, so I can't even totally put that on them there. And tonight, like, you just pulled on that, it was a yarn ball, and you pulled on that one strand, and the whole ball just fell apart tonight. And people asking, oh, what happened to the pass rush? The problem is that every play, Dak had somewhere to go with the ball. And this is another one. We harped on it all off season, and no, Jair isn't going to have fixed this problem. But the problem on top of that is you did nothing to address that. And signing one Nate Hobbs was not nearly enough to buttress this cornerback room. And that was my whole thing. Is I was like, I don't know what you do, because there is no corner in free agency this year that, it totally hasn't worked in the way. I'll fully admit, Jair has looked awful with Baltimore. So it would have been worse if he was still on the Packers. But, like, there was no corner in free agency that you were going to sign and be like, that guy is going to make so much of a difference that it's going to solve so many of our problems on defense. Like, there was no guy that you were going to get this season. But at the same time, it was like, okay, we signed Hobbs, who's as injury prone as Jair is, and that's it. Like, other than that, we're rolling it back with what we've got, kind of thing. And it looked like it was going to work for the first 2.5 weeks of the season, but you're starting to see the cracks where if an opposing team is willing to play, as I call it, a college style of offense where everything's a quick hitter, you're throwing the ball laterally at the line of scrimmage, and then you try to crease Green Bay when they get into that mindset of, we're playing a college offense, everything is short, everything is quick, blah, blah, blah. And that's when you get creased by one of those fake screens and shit like that. And this is the first time where Hafley's just had his mail read, so I'm not going to get on him tonight. I do think that he was just the whole, which button do I press? I think he just had his arm on the keyboard and was like, I'm going to try and press all of them and see what happens. But it's just not good enough. And when, I didn't know when we would get to this point in the season, but you saw what happened when Green Bay's pass rush can't get home. It's bad.
Well, and to add on top of that, just to keep piling on that, is how bad did everything look once Devontae Wyatt went out? So that was another thing that we kept harping on, is they didn't address anything. They got rid of Kenny to get Micah in, but then they didn't address any of the holes there. I understand they liked what they had in Wooden. They like what they have in Brooks. They like Stackhouse. For some reason, and we can keep bringing this up, Brinson is not being activated for the games. So once Devontae Wyatt went out, that was like the end of the interior rush and play. So, they got to hope that Wyatt's not going to be gone long term.
And I tweeted it. I said, this is where I've been critical on not activating Brinson, and where I know that Brinson's a rookie and I'm not expecting anything great out of him, but you saw Stackhouse doesn't give you anything in not a goal line or a short down situation. And I think Dallas honestly had its best runs when he was on the field, because he just doesn't understand how to engage and initiate a double team. So he, like, the one play that got Dallas down to like the 4-yard line, he just can't read that it's an outside zone, and he just runs right into his blocker man up, and that allows the guard to go and hook Quay right out of the way and stuff. And it's those kind of moments where, like, if you're not commanding if you're Stackhouse and your like intent is to only be on the field 10 snaps a game and you can't command a double team, you're useless to this team. And that gets magnified when Wyatt or anyone gets injured. I know some people are going to say like, oh, but they play so many of the other guys inside. They're not playing the NASCAR package when it's a traditional down and distance. And that's the thing too, is like everyone, or the cheetah, everyone's like, where was the cheetah package? I'm like, you can't play it on 3rd and 3 when you're going to back and forth score. You can play it on 3rd and 3 if you're up 17 points, but you can't play it when you're only up 4. Like, it's just, yeah, it's
And to kind of go back to my point, once Wyatt went out is when you saw the deficiency of what Stackhouse was.
yeah,
So, that's where you need to bring in somebody else, because I understand, again, they like Wooden, they like Brooks, but they're both undersized no matter what. We kept saying this about Wooden since he got drafted. Is he going to be an outside edge? Is he going to be an inside guy? Because he just doesn't have the size to him to play inside, and he's too big to play outside. So he's really much of a tweener, even on a 4-3 defense. So he kind of lacks when it comes to the run game. Brooks is a little bit of the same way, where he kind of lacks during the run game. So when you don't have that extra dynamic to help a Stackhouse out, then yeah, you're going to get gashed all over the place. But, and they were playing a lot of, and I called it favorite lineup, Rashawn, defensive tackle, Lucas, Parsons. They played a lot of that, and they were getting success, but it goes back to, okay, well, then they got hold and couldn't finish the successes. So they were struggling there, but they were doing what they needed to. It just wasn't having any effect on anything. And yeah, Dallas figured that out. Last week, the Browns figured that out. I don't know how the Packers organization doesn't figure that out.
well,
And if they keep playing the way they are, I'm going to buy stock in Dr. Pepper, because we were already in the start of the second quarter, and they focused in on Brian Gutekunst, and he was already on like his third can of Diet Dr. Pepper. So if that's the way things are going, I'm going to buy stock in Dr. Pepper.
yep. All right, we've delayed it long enough. The biggest moldy thing tonight was LaFleur.
I've got
It's-
one more. So
go
if you
for
want
it,
me to
go for
give
it.
that one before you
Yeah.
want to go into the floor, I'm going to give it to the whole Packer front office. And the reason I say that is because they've spent the whole offseason trying to talk themselves into replacing Rasheed Walker. And Rasheed Walker has been like their lone bright spot when it comes to the offensive line. And yeah, he's had his moments, but he still has been the most capable out of their linemen so far this season. He's been relatively healthy. Yeah, he's popped up on the injury report a couple times, but he's been relatively healthy. He's kept Jordan's blind spot relatively clean, but they've spent all their time trying to replace him. They took Morgan last year, and they keep talking about how he's going to be in the competition for left tackle. They took Belton this year, who most likely slots on in the inside, but he was a left tackle. And they've done all this, and they've trashed him. How many times has LaFleur called him out for some shit, or gotten on his ass for something stupid, and he still went out there and has played his ass off to protect Jordan Love? So yes, I am going to give the Packers front office moldy on that, just because you've spent all, and I understand he's probably going to command a decent contract at the end of the season. There's limited money going around, but when you've got one guy who has done nothing but has come in as a 7th-round pick and has been one of your solid offensive linemen for the last 4 years, and you've done nothing but try to replace him with a 1st-round pick that has struggled, a 2nd-round pick that's struggled, who looks bad in that situation?
Yep. So, and then
We can spend the rest of the time bitching about your moldy.
so I don't even know where to start with this one. Let's put
Okay,
out the disclaimer again. We'll put out the disclaimer again. You and I have spent a lot of time being patient, saying that there's so much good that he's done. I saw someone respond to one of my tweets about how pissed off I am at LaFleur and equating him to Marty Schottenheimer, and it kind of sticks. Your team's gonna win like double-digit games, make the playoffs, all that good stuff, but it's like what's it going to do once you get there? You might have one great playoff win and stuff, but otherwise it's been just a sopping bowl of disappointments. And okay, so a big part of my thing with this is the mentality of your team is a result of the what your head coach brings to the table. And so we have to look no further than to our division rival, the Detroit Lions, for, as much as anyone, including me, has called Campbell a meathead, how that stuff burns out and all. Like, that team, yeah, I do think they're front runners in a sense, and I think they don't like getting bullied, but that's kind of what bullies do. But they see an opportunity to step on someone's throat, and they go and do it. And this gets back to like your joke that LaFleur thinks there's only so many points to score in a season, and dear God, we just scored 40, so who knows what they're going to do coming out of the bye. But, like, okay, so people are like, oh, what is, like, the grading for LaFleur? That 4th and 2 in the first quarter is a failing grade moment for LaFleur. And there's so many people who tried to defend it by saying, like, you have an elite defense. I know this is odd for Packers fans, but you have an elite defense. You can play to that strength, blah, blah, blah. And then, Dallas goes 3 and out after that. And they're like, see, it worked. To me, that's letting results cloud your judgment on what is the good play there. You're moving the ball at absolute will in the air, at least at that point in the game. Dallas hasn't stopped anything you've done in the passing game. You had 3rd and 18, you just turned it into 4th and 2. And you go and do that cowardly bullshit, get to the line, try to draw them offside, and take the delay of game thing. It's like, to me, we are so far from get off the bus with piss hot and all gas, no fucking brakes. That shit, it's a lie. It's an absolute lie at this point. Because LaFleur doesn't want to coach that way. And as much as as recently as this fucking season, what was I saying after the Thursday night game? You're the one who put it in stale that he let this game get back to a 1-score lead. And I was the one that's like, but then they went down the field and scored right away. Well, here we are 2 weeks later, and LaFleur has not learned that, hey, I could go up 2 scores right now, or I can put my foot on their throat and go up 3 scores. And it's like, nah, I'm okay with letting the game play out kind of thing. And then he turns around after turning down 4th and 2 and a relatively good 4th and 5 earlier in the half and says, fuck it. I'm going to try score from my own 20-something or 30-something yard line before the half. And it's like, Love kind of almost threw an interception a couple plays earlier. And it's like, you got the first down. Dallas isn't calling timeout. Just let the game go to fucking halftime at that point. Like, there's no reason to be aggressive. And like I said, you choose that moment to be aggressive. And yes, Jordan cannot allow a sack fumble to happen, but you're calling a fucking long developing play with 20 seconds left after you just got called for yet another stupid ass penalty on your O-line. Like, and then I think we knew what was going to happen after halftime is that LaFleur was just trying to bleed this game to death down the stretch. He's just like, please, if I can figure out how to score a touchdown but take 12 minutes off the clock, he's like, I would sell my soul to do that right now. And you can't. And even at the end of regulation, he telegraphed so much that he was okay settling for a 50-yard field goal. When your team is in this position to have to tie the game on this field goal because you can't protect on a fucking PAT, which is a 40-yard field goal. And then at the end of regulation, yes, I know that Jordan can hurry up and stuff, but that's LaFleur's fucking system, is to take your time in the huddle, take your time getting to the line of scrimmage, set the play up and all that stuff. And obviously, I wish Love just said, fuck it, I'm throwing this thing. We're not running that play, Matt. We're running something that gets us in the end zone kind of thing. But this is Jordan in his 3rd year starting, the early part of his 3rd starting season. this isn't Rodgers in year 17 where he's just like, fuck it. Like, fuck your offense. I'm running my shit kind of thing. And when they kept running it to Wilson, who was doing great, but when they kept running it to Wilson, I was like, oh, God. He's fucking worried about Brandon Aubrey coming on and kicking a game-winning field goal with, like, you know, if Dallas has 20 seconds to get to half field kind of thing. And I was like, who gives a shit about that? Call your best fucking plays and put this ball in the end zone. And, you know, some people are like, Dobbs needs to block. He does. And Jordan needs to hurry up. You're calling that fucking dumbass McCarthy bubble screen for the 17th time tonight with the running clock. Throw something into the fucking end zone. But no, your coach is so concerned about the next drive instead of, if I score a touchdown here, my team wins the game. Like, there are so many moments where LaFleur just explicitly shows that he is afraid of the moment. And I know some people are going to spin that into he's afraid of Jordan Love fucking. Jordan Love saved his fucking ass multiple times in regulation. Yes, the fumble was bad, but he bailed his sorry ass coach out of that mistake too. And LaFleur holds at least 50% in that decision making process for deciding to go for it in that scenario. And I know tomorrow he's going to come out with his bullshit. Well, you can't make a situation. Fuck that shit. You're the fucking coach with the goddamn handcuffs on your quarterback. It's dead ass obvious to anyone who understands this game to an elementary level with the way that you call it, the way that you sequence your plays, when everything is working when you throw the ball past 5 yards. And even with your hodgepodge O-line, Jordan is moving around the pocket enough to figure out how to get the ball off. And you just fucking wasted it to be a coward instead. And the way this team operates, it's so frustrating because they have the talent to be absolute ass kickers on offense. And LaFleur's mentality is, nah, why would I want 8 drives a game when I can have 6 really efficient drives? Why do I want 12 drives on offense when I can have 9 really efficient ones? And that's just a stupid fucking way to call an offense. Like, and I need you all to think back to the Dallas playoff game is literally the only one where he put the hammer down. Almost every other playoff win, his team has let the opponent back. The Seattle game, it took Rodgers to Devontae on 3rd down. And then the Jimmy Graham play where the line was off, so everyone thought the Packers, that the Seahawks got cheated at the end of that game. The Rams game in 2020, they dicked around and almost found out in that game, and it took the fucking bomb to Lazard late in the game to push that back to a 2-score lead. And then the 2021, you kind of just were like, oh, it's fine being a 10-0 game, but just turtle because our defense is playing good enough and shit. And then, I mean, last year was shot and stuff, but like, it's the same shit over and over in these kind of games where I know that it's the first half and, you know, there's a lot of ball game left and stuff, but you are so in control of this game. Dallas has nothing when you go up 13-0. They look like they wanted to go and just quit and go home at that point. And then because of your staff mismanagement, your special teams give up a 3-point swing. And from there, you just make almost every wrong move in every game-winning scenario. People ask, like, what, you know, I'm not saying you fire LaFleur tomorrow or anything like that. I do think you make him think about it on the plane ride home and stuff. At this point, I think he's a lost cause in that regard. He's going to be who he is. Like, he's going to be this guy that's like, a 2-scored lead is insurmountable and I can bleed anytime off the clock and all that kind of I think that's just what we're stuck with. But people ask, what's he supposed to do this season? Buddy, he has turned the Ferrari on and he has driven it into the driveway wall and the driveway door twice this season because he's like, oh, I don't know if I should put it into second gear. Dude, the whole point with you having this pass, that's the thing is, like, the way this defense works is you, as the offensive guru on this team, need to score as many fucking points as your offense can so your pass rush can rush the opposing passer. But that doesn't work when you keep allowing yourself to get into one score makes this a back and forth game scenarios, which he has done in every single game this season. Is like I said, he let the Detroit game linger way longer than it should have. He let the Washington linger down to a 17-10 game before he got serious and put the game away drive. And then Cleveland, like I said, pulled the hand grenade pin out, let the paddle flip off, and was like, I wonder what'll happen with this thing in the palm of his hand. And then, like I said, doesn't fucking learn. He went and did it again tonight. And people are like, what's the realistic? To me, if he doesn't get to the Super Bowl this season, unless Jordan, Parsons, Gary all get injured, like the way that the rest of the league has looked so incomplete. And that's you don't even use your team, you don't deploy your team the way that it should be utilized to win games. Like, you should be trying to score every drive early in a game so that your pass rush doesn't have to give a shit if they run the ball. And everyone's like, oh, you can't run the fucking college style offense. You can't lean on the run game to negate Green Bay's pass rush if you are down 17 or more points. But LaFleur's like, nah, 10 is good enough.
That's what I keep saying.
You're one slip on the banana peel from being in trouble. And that's happened both weeks. And the thing I worry about is this tie is going to give LaFleur ammunition to say, like, nah, my idea is working fine. There's a couple tweaks and we're good. And maybe it is, but dude, like, that's back-to-back embarrassing performances by your head coach. And like I said, that identity stems solely from the guy in that chair. You get paid all the money. Like I said, they're going to put all gas, no fucking brakes, and hot piss on his gravestone whenever he's not here anymore, because it was just a lie. It was nothing more than a fever dream and a lie.
Well, and I keep saying this and I sound like a broken record, but it's as if he thinks you can only score so many points in a season. And when he has to spend those points in a game like this, he gets pissed off about it. And this is another reason why I say we just need to do away with press conferences, because there's no use to them, because all he's going to do is come out and I know we're doing our live and they've probably already done their press conferences and all that already, but all he's going to do is say, well, we're going to have to take a look at that. We didn't execute the way we should have. I thought our guys were fighting, put up a hell of a fight, but there's some things we need to work on. That's all he's going to say. It's all going to be coach speak and cliches and shit like that. No. And I do agree. To kind of steal from our segments, he's getting stale. And the funny thing is we know he can be more than that. He has the things in his playbook, but he won't use them. He tried one tonight with the handoff to Savion and the pitch back to Love, but it just didn't materialize down the field. I don't know. I didn't get to see what was the downfield look on it. So maybe there wasn't somebody open. Maybe Jordan just didn't want to fit it in there, whatever. And so we know he has these things in his playbook, but when he gets to these situations, he won't use them. He just wants to go back to like you said, the bubble screens and the toss plays and the runs up the middle, and well, we at least got a couple yards out of it. It's not going to win you anything. It's not, and it's showing you it's not going to win you anything to be that conservative. And I don't get it, because we were fed a bunch of shit when he first was hired that he's going to rejuvenize this offense. He's going to the all gas no fucking brakes, the wake up with your piss hot, your shit like that, and we're not seeing any of it. We have yet to see any of it. I won't even say the Cowboys playoff game was seeing any of it. I think he just lucked into it because the Cowboys were just playing shitty that day. And that sucks to say because you want to see him have success. You know what this team can be. They just won't do it. And I can't put it all on Halfley. I can't put it all on the defense because when your offense can't sustain drives, you're going to gas out your defense by putting them out there constantly. What do you do? I mean, really, what do you do? Maybe you need to stop having these rotations of wide receivers. Run the hurry up a little bit more. Maybe that would have helped out some of these backups on the offensive line a little bit more because that would have put the Cowboys defense at a disadvantage because they couldn't get on and off the field like they need to be. You got to do something. You can't just keep playing the same shit week in, week out. I know next week is the bye week. Who do we play after that?
Yep. So.
No, I'm asking the question. Who do we play after the bye week?
Oh, Bengals. Sorry.
Okay, well, theoretically, we shouldn't have any problem with that because they don't have Joe Burrow right now. But the way this team is playing, they'll make Jake Browning look like a friggin' Hall of Famer. So, something's got to change, whether it's, didn't they bring Hackett back in as a special, what do they call him, a special advisor?
Did they keep him? I can't remember. Hold on.
I don't know. I know he was in either for mini camps or there for training camps.
I can't remember if he actually
advisor.
got like a spot or not, or if he's just like kind of around kind of thing.
Because maybe you need to be listening to Hackett a little bit more than Bisaccia. There's a reason why Bisaccia isn't a head coach in the NFL.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, everyone says like no one knows how to feel after a tie and all that kind of shit.
Pissed off.
Yeah, I feel pretty pissed off and defeated after this one because, like,
first off, no game in the world should ever end in a tie.
And your coach just played for one.
Yeah. I said it since halftime that it's like he's playing for a tie. I don't know. Have we beat this horse to death yet or not?
Yeah, I guess so. I'm just spiraling at this point, but I don't even know whether it's better or not that they don't have a game next week. They need the rest. They need whatever bit health. And that's the thing is, I don't even know how much healthier they're going to be coming out of the bye. Like, I guess Hobbs won't be concussed. You hope Hobbs won't be concussed by the time they play Cincinnati. But
you gotta hope Banks' groin isn't going to be as bad because he was able to play last week, but he wasn't this week.
Yeah, and then Belton, it sounded like that's a shorter term thing, but that's the thing is, yeah, I don't know.
And you know what I would do? There is no way in the world I would let Goody, LaFleur, or any of them leave Green Bay for anything. They need to be bringing people in for workouts. They need to be retooling things. And to kind of answer your thing, or to go back to what you were talking about with, why they didn't come up with a better plan to replace a Jair. Now they can't because they gave up so much for Micah Parsons. Now, unless they want to continue to go into the hole and with draft picks, there's no way they can fill a spot by a trade anymore because they don't really have the ammunition or even offensive line.
Like
defensive line.
O-line, you're just doing the prayer circle that the bye is going to solve most of your problems.
How much juice do you think is left in Bakhtiari's knee?
Bach is the kind of guy that I get the feeling he probably weighs like 270 right now. Like after he couldn't get a call from, his buddy on the Jets, I get the feeling that he's the kind of guy, like the next time we see him in Green Bay, he's going to weigh like 240 pounds. And it's going to be like, who is that guy? Like when he shows up to be inducted into the Packers Hall of Fame, it's like, who is this guy in the first row kind of thing. And I mean
Well,
that
I
in the
will
best
say,
way that like, and I
Josh
mean that in
Sitton
like
and
the best.
right, Josh Sitton and TJ Lang did the same thing. I saw him last year when they were up there for
Yeah. And those
Matthews.
are two guys, and those are two guys that are like, they look like big boys kind of thing. But like, you know, Mike Wall is one where you look at him and you're like, this was one of the like biggest, meanest guards in the NFL, and he just looks like a dad, like he is, but like, you know what I mean? Like he looks like a dad at the baseball park kind of thing and stuff. But nah, it's
I don't even know who would be out there at this point. I really don't.
no,
I'd have to sit down and look.
no,
But
they're stuck with what they've got at this point. You know, they hold on. What's the schedule? So you know, you'd like to hope that you know. I know the Cleveland game was on turf, but or was on grass, but I don't know if playing on Dallas. You know, that's the thing is like I hate having to come up with reasons for why it looked different or whatever bullshit and stuff. But you know, so your next one, two, three,
okay,
your
while you're
next three
looking,
games are your next three games are on grass because you play Cincinnati at home. You go to Arizona with the fucking moving grass field thing, and then you go to Pittsburgh, which is like barely a step above Soldier Field's turf. And so, yeah, I don't.
well, there's one more thing that I want to call out, and just to kind of lighten the mood after what we just have been going with, I want to call out Chris fucking Collingsworth. He fucking comes out and says, well, you got to wonder if the weather is affecting the Packers defense. What the hell are you talking about? One, they're in a fucking dome. Two, it's September. It's not like it's negative 20 in Green Bay right now that they're coming from horribly cold weather to warm weather and it's going to be any worse for them. What the hell kind of shit are you talking about, Collinsworth?
Well, he had one where like the one that I tweeted is he goes like they show Jordan doing like some kind of rollout, and he goes, "You can see here they're running away from Parsons," and it's like, well, of course they fucking are. He's on the Packers sideline. I was like, good lord.
You know, they need to start retiring some of these guys.
I know. I said it for the longest time with like Dickie V on college basketball. Stop using game broadcasting as senior daycare. I had one with like Brad Nessler in the Michigan Nebraska game where it's like Nessler spent a whole quarter trying to call face mask on Michigan. It's like nobody grabbed anything close to the face mask and stuff like
Well,
that
even
at all. And
fucking the Hawkeyes radio network, Ed Podolak finally retired a couple years ago. And you could just tell by the end of the first half, he was already fucking tanked. And not to make light of it, because Ed Podolak has been known about a drinking issue for most of his career. But just some of these guys, and even, you know, I used to love watching Terry Bradshaw and them have fun on Fox Game Day and stuff like that. But I think really now it's time for some of these older guys to take off and not bring in like a Gronkowski, because all he is flash and substance. He's not really an analysis. So, yeah. But yeah, I sat there and I was like, what the hell are you talking about? That it must be, you know, you got to wonder what the weather is affecting the Packers defense. What? All right, I had to lighten the mood with that one. So I think we've beat the dead horse enough.
yeah, I think we've hit everything already at this point, and we're just gonna spiral it if we keep going any longer. Like I said,
I thoroughly enjoyed it because normally you don't see Kawano get heated like this, and it was wonderful.
I just, you know, I can accept losing when the other team is better than you, when you're physically outmatched and all. I cannot stand mental mistakes, and I absolutely abhorrently despise poor tactical choices. And LaFleur made every poor one tonight. And like the most irritating point of mine is you call this game scared after you give up the blocked PAT and shit. And you know what you allowed to have happen? You allowed Jerry fucking Jones to go in his locker room and say, see, Dak Prescott is an irreplaceable player. Micah isn't. And
Well, and like I said, it also gives Bears fans ammunition now because see, we were able to go down or we were able to kick the Cowboys' ass, and you couldn't do nothing.
like,
And that's the last thing we need to do is give friggin' Bears fans more ammunition.
yep. But like I said, it all goes back to the three rival coaches in this division are all out to embarrass you if they have the opportunity. O'Connell's probably the nicest about it, and he just plays the nerd card and is like, I just wanted to try this new play kind of thing and stuff. But LaFleur's the only one that's like, nah, like, it's okay, as long as we can get the win, it's fine. I think, like,
Again, he
I'm
only
not saying
thinks at
any
like
of
600 points in a season, and that's what he's limited to.
but that's gonna do it for us tonight. Like Joe said, we've probably had enough of pissing into the wind and moaning about it. It's not going to change the outcome. It's not going to change how LaFleur calls games or manages games. It's just really frustrating to see it play out by the book, basically, at this point. You know what? Maybe the most symbolic thing that'll come out of this game, if certain things play out at the end of the season, is going to be Ed Policy in his binoculars in the press box. So,
and hopefully
you
my
know,
Dr. Pepper stock.
but that'll do it for us tonight. Please check out the website, ohanapackers.org. I'm sure that Carlos and I will have a bunch of articles going up over the bye week, you know, as we parse through whatever the fuck the Packers are at the end of the first quarter. I don't even, you know, I'm sure I'll write a whole long article about my usual early season question. Is this a good bad team or a bad good team? I really thought I wasn't going to have to ask that question this season after week 2. And week 3 and 4 have made that come roaring back into a point of discussion, which is not where I thought we'd be after how the season started. So check out the articles there. All the backups of this show and Cheese Talk Radio are on, Cheese Talk Podcasts are on there. Check out our merch. Please support the channel there so that you can hear Joe and I just yell sweet nothings into the wind that LaFleur is never going to hear. Please follow us on your favorite social medias at Ohana_Packers on Twitter, at Ohana Packers Edition on Instagram. Please give us a follow on Facebook. You know, we're trying to hit 100 followers there so that our live streams can be there, as well as YouTube. Please follow the podcast on your favorite podcasting apps. Give us a like and a subscribe. And if you have any thoughts on where you think this team is, where you think this ship is able to be steered with LaFleur at the helm, or anything else on your mind, give it to us. Like I said, honestly, that game has left me as the freaking, you know, the Narcos meme where Escobar is just sitting everywhere looking distraught like that. Just staring into the unknown. That's how I feel after this game. Like I said, all I've got is Jordan played good. Like, I know that's being short with a lot of other guys, but
there were good individual efforts, but not a complete team effort.
But that, like I said, you know what? There's a lot of ball game left, a lot of games to be played. Hoping we're not going to be as disappointed like we have been the last 2 weeks with this team. They have so much talent, so much promise. But we'll see how they end up at the end of this season. But until next time, go Pack Go and aloha.
Packers fans out here to stay. Cheeseheads green and Green Bay hustle, grind it up. Hit the field, we don't bluff. Touchdown dances, feel the love. Jordan's got that MVP stuff. It's time for let's go. Packers bringing that show. It's time for you know who.